3 times in 4 months, Donald J. Trump has stood in a courtroom to face a judge and criminal charges, but today's appearance was really momentous.
In a historic case, the former president is accused of being the mastermind behind an effort to overturn the results of the 2020 election. The courthouse where Trump appeared is just blocks from Capitol Hill, the site of the worst assault on democracy in more than 200 years.
KTLA's John Fenolio joining us live. He's got more on today's unprecedented developments. John.
Yes, Sandra, Micah, this was truly a historic day. Never before has a former president been criminally charged with conspiring to subvert the will of voters in an attempt to hang on to power after losing an election. The most serious charges former President Trump faces call for up to 20 years in prison. Tonight, however, Mr. Trump is maintaining his innocence. Former President Trump back in Washington, D.C. Thursday, but not the way he had hoped to return. The former president arrested and arraigned in federal court on felony charges over his alleged effort to overturn the results of his 2020 election loss. On one side of the courtroom, Mr. Trump flanked by his attorneys. On the other, federal prosecutors along with special counsel Jack Smith. The former president pleading not guilty to 4 felony counts including conspiracy to defraud the United States, conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding, that's the January 6th certification of the election results, and obstruction and conspiracy against civil rights, specifically depriving citizens of their right to vote and have their votes counted. The proceeding lasting just 30 minutes, Mr. Trump making brief remarks before returning to his New Jersey golf club.
This is a persecution of a political opponent. This was never supposed to happen in America.
Federal prosecutors alleging Mr. Trump was determined to remain in power after losing the election, and that he, along with 6 unindicted co-conspirators, orchestrated a plot to overturn the presidential results, which led to the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol.
This is not a coincidence. This is election interference at its finest against the leading candidate right now for president, for either party.
The former president's lawyers arguing he did nothing wrong and was exercising his First Amendment right to question the outcome of the election and was merely following the advice of his attorneys at the time.
I don't think the defenses that we are likely to see, the advice of counsel defense, the First Amendment defense, I don't think those undercut the facts alleged in the indictment here.
Loyola University constitutional law professor Jessica Levinson says that while even lies are protected under the First Amendment, not all speech is free of consequences.
For people who think this is just the weaponization of the Department of Justice, look at all the facts alleged and then ask why you think that. Again, there's a difference between an indictment and a conviction, but based on the publicly available facts, if you change the name Donald Trump to John Smith, ask somebody if you think somebody who's alleged to engage in that behavior should be tried in a court of law. People have a right to speak their mind, but at a certain point, that speech can cross over into criminal behavior.
All right. Also in federal court today were several police officers who defended the Capitol on January 6th. Former President Trump's next court hearing is on August 28th. Back to you.
John, thank you. Stay with KTLA for continuing coverage of the arraignment of former President Trump. We'll have another live report ahead on the news at 11. And the latest updates are available anytime on KTLA.com and the free KTLA 5 app.